In this tutorial, we'll look at how to configure the pop-ups for our layer in a web map. Right now we're looking at a web map that I've previously created, saved, and shared to make publicly accessible. The web map consists of 3 layers. The first layer is population density. These are the orange polygons in the map. When I click on those polygons, the pop-up window shows me some text explaining the statistics about that particular census tract in this case. Now, the configuration of this pop-up has been previously set by the original creator of this layer, which was not me. In fact, I acquired this layer using the Add Search for Layers option, which allowed me access to layers that have been created by other institutions or other individuals and shared with the public for use in web maps. However, depending on the configuration by the original creator, it may or may not be open to editing. In this case, it's not. I can simply live with the available pop-ups. This layer, Geology Temp, is a green polygon. I created this layer myself using the Add Map Notes function, which allowed me to physically draw the polygon and then configure the pop-up attributes in this dialog window here. Now, in order to do that for a variety of features, I would have to do that for each individual item that I created. Lastly, I have this Psychics layer that I created using a table or a comma separated values table and imported with coordinates and then allowed the web map to plot them for me. Now when I click on those items, I see the attributes that were all in the original table, which are quite lengthy. Now this is fine, except it looks kind of messy. What I want to do is I want to configure the pop-ups for this layer so they look nice and neat. To do that, I go to the layer on the table of contents over here and click on the More Options ellipses. Then I choose Configure Pop-up. In the Configure Pop-up dialog window, I can see that the default right now is to simply display a list of the field attributes, which is not what I want. So I'm going to click on that drop-down menu and choose a Custom Attribute Display, and then I'm going to click on the Configure button. And in the Configure dialog that pops up, it's going to allow me to control how the pop-ups work. And the way this system works is that I put in some static text, essentially text that will appear in every single pop-up, along with some field values that will pull from the original table that I created the layer with. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's say, for example, that I want each pop-up to describe the business that it's referring to and also to incorporate an image. So I'm going to say, this is, and then I want the name of the business to appear. So with this Add Field Name button on the far right of the lower menu, I choose the column that contained the name of the business from that original table. And this name within the curly Q brackets means that it will insert the respective name of the individual businesses from the table, although this is, those words will stay the same. So this is name of business, which can be found at, and now I'm going to put in the address for that business. So again, I'm going to use the Add Field Name option here and find the column that contains the street address in, and then I'm going to put the city or town name. All right, and so let's leave it like that for a second. So right now, again, I'm putting in some static text which won't change with the name of the business, the address, and the city. I'll click OK. Save the pop-up. Now when I click on an individual feature, you'll see that the pop-up displays this is the Mystic Way, which can be found at the street address 1075 Washington Street in West Newton. So I've essentially controlled it so that every single pop-up will substitute the proper business name along with address and city. I also want these pop-ups to contain images. So again, going to the Psychics layer on the table of contents, click on More Options, Configure Pop-up. Now in the lower part of this window, I'm going to choose Add Image. Now by default, the image will be labeled with whatever you want it to be. It could be called Image 1. I'm going to put in, again, the name of the business. If you had a column in the original table with a caption for the images, you could insert that here as well. I didn't, so I'm going to leave that blank. The crucial part here is the URL, or the link, not the link rather, but the address of the image that you want to use. And as you recall, I have a column in my original table with a URL to a thumbnail image, which is a small version of an image I want, so it'll use that. And finally, it can make the image itself a hyperlink to another web page. In this case, I want to make it a link to the web page of the business that I'm referring to. So I have that column with the web address. So I'll click OK, save pop-up. And now when I click on an individual feature, I'll see that I have original text that I incorporated, the title ostensibly for the image, and you'll notice that the image shows up and it's also a hyperlink to a particular web page. So now I've configured my pop-ups the way I want them to look. So I want to save the map so that that's retained. Okay. And since I've made changes to the layer, I want to make sure that I save the layer as well so that those changes get retained in the layer. And if I want to, I can bring it into another map. So at this point, I've configured the pop-ups to look the way I want them. Now, if I encountered a situation where I found spelling mistakes or missing items, I could, in theory, edit this individual layer here in the map by enabling the editing option, which then lets me choose to edit individual items here. The editing capability, though, is limited, so some things cannot be edited very easily. So, for example, I can't edit the name because that's being used currently in the map. I can edit the other items there, and as soon as I did any editing, I'd have to make sure that I also went back and saved it. In general, I recommend that if you find that you're missing items in your layer that go to this layer that you've created from a table, or significant errors, it would be better to go back to the original table and add those items and make those corrections and then re-upload it and recreate it, rather than doing the editing directly in the web map. I found that it can be a little unreliable there. But that's how you configure the pop-ups for a layer.